The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Easy Money New England.
Oh, can somebody help us here?
We can, because we are real estate and mortgage professionals.
Where you go?
It says come in and browse.
That's right. Come on in, listen up and learn.
How long do you intend to browse?
In a short period of time, our panel will teach you some tricks that might make your house buying easier.
You don't ask her how long she intends to browse.
You might not be looking for a mortgage today, but we'll get you ready.
You don't look like browsers.
Are you looking?
No, what do browsers look like?
Yeah, maybe I'm half browse.
On his father's side.
This is Easy Money New England
Let's show the lady we're browsers.
with your host, Brian Damico.
Hey, look at us, we're browsers. One more word out of you and he gets it, all right? Come on.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of our show, Easy Money New England, where every week we bring you money-making opportunities or money-saving ideas, all in the areas of real estate. And today on our show, we're going to talk about the state of Vermont. We have Paul Corroccio from TPW Real Estate. TPW is not just a real estate sales firm, it's also a management firm for HOAs, and it does sales, rentals, and we're gonna talk about Paul, who actually earned a structural engineering degree from Purdue and went on to build experience in commercial and residential property management, asset planning, maintenance, building construction, design, and civil engineering before joining the family business. After growing up, his technical consulting firm that his parents started 25 years ago he's been excited to help TPW expand into real estate sales and vacation rentals over the past several years. So, without further ado, Paul, welcome to the show.
Hi there. Well, thank you. Glad to be on.
So, Paul, that sounds like an interesting background. You started out at Purdue, civil engineering, and then kind of brought your education to the areas of real estate?
Sure. Yeah. The real answer to the engineering degree is I didn't know what else to do, so I got an engineering degree, and came from a family with my father being a professional engineer, growing up in that environment. So I figured that was the way to go, and then moved back home to Vermont, where we had a family business, and my dad and I had a good conversation in the early 2000s about growing the business into more markets than just where we lived, and applying our engineering skill set and background to an industry that probably what we knew back then needed it, and it worked out well from a consulting perspective and providing capital improvement analysis for buildings and condo associations that we managed.
So that sounds like a pretty interesting niche, condo association. So I know that. So how do you get involved? Say, does the condo association reach out to you to manage their property, and then is there a bidding process? How do you get? How many doors are you managing, and how does that all work?
Sure. Yeah, we're now managing about 5,000 homes in southern Vermont and central New Hampshire, central and western New Hampshire. We primarily focus on the resort areas, which are unique, and most management companies in the country are primarily managing what we call primary home communities. But so they're a little different in nature of how you're hired and how they go about bidding and finding the service provider to manage the communities. In our case, in the ski resort, golf resort, and lake resort areas in Vermont and New Hampshire, the communities are owned by folks. They're basically all second homes, and their primary homes are in Boston or New York City or Providence or New Jersey area. So what happens is the board of directors of each community is somewhat absentee, and therefore it's not their favorite thing to do is to go find a management company to manage their second home community. So we end up doing more than the average management company by providing more services, such as being an executive director role for the boards and making sure they've got all their meetings organized, their minutes, and then all the routine stuff of managing the bookkeeping, the vendor management, all the tasks. But we really operate as a full service management company because the boards of directors are really absentee owners in communities we manage. So it's when they hire us, they usually send out, first thing is we get a phone call that says, hey, we don't like the service that our current manager is providing. Would you be interested in bidding or sending us a quote? And we always, well, depending on the community, we usually say yes. If it's in our geographical area and we can service it well, we say yes. And then we do an interview, and then sometimes that prompts them to say, oh, we didn't know there was a company out there like you. Maybe there are others. We're going to put together an RFP and see if we can get other bids. That's actually pretty rare. In most cases, we are in the business through a relationship and then help them solve a problem that is somewhat immediate. Most boards don't reach out for new management unless there's been a catastrophic problem or failure in their current management, because it's a real task and chore to change management.
That's a serious, 5,000 doors is no small feat. So congratulations on that. I mean, that sounds like a great niche, great business. So, we have a lot of listeners, if they're driving around right now, this is more, ways that they can make money or save money all in the areas of real estate. Is there any do you see good opportunities? Do you see people investing in Vermont in the second home areas? Are the prices gone up? Is there areas for appreciation? Any great projects out there today?
Sure. So we also run a multi-office real estate sales and rentals business as well in Southern Vermont, and we have offices in the Stratton Mountain Resort. We have offices in Okemo, the Manchester and Dorset area, as well as up in Norwich and Hanover, New Hampshire, and Lake Winnipesaukee, New Hampshire. And but for Vermont, the biggest asset Vermont has that I personally see that's a differentiator from across the country is Vermont's done a very good job of preserving its natural beauty and its asset of lifestyle activities. We haven't developed a lot of the landscape. We haven't commercialized it with billboards and signage and strip malls. But rather, since 1970 with Act 250, Vermont's done a great job of preserving the mountains, the brooks, the streams, the lakes, the golf courses, the trails, all those things that people now today find to be something they yearn for, particularly in the Northeast. And so we see a big number of people coming to Vermont to vacation or just do a little overnight or 2 nights, check out what's going on. And then a lot of those people start shopping for real estate and think, wow, I'd like to have a second home here. And then many also say, I'd like to move here. With the advancement of all the technology in the world and telecommuting and businesses saying, hey, it may be cheaper if the employee works from home, we're seeing a lot of people live and work in Vermont and work remotely, even back to the cities. And so Vermont real estate, at this point after the recession, seems to be on picking up, particularly in the towns where there are a lot of active and activities and active people doing things to keep, bring the community up, like the arts, the activities, the outdoor things. And so communities like Manchester, Woodstock, and those two in particular have a great retail presence, have great activities, have golf courses, have ski resorts nearby. So on the residential side, we are seeing things pick up. Ski resorts themselves are their own little environment where there's a lot of condominiums and homes that people, sometimes think they're investing and they're going to get a return. And then others say, I'm just buying it so my family has a place to enjoy while the kids grow up. And so the ski markets are actually a different animal in terms of the real estate market. And then we've got the commercial market, which has a mix of industrial, retail, and office, professional office, a mix throughout the state, which is I think, coming back from the recession as well. I mean, everything sort of bottomed out a few years back, and and we're starting to see transaction volume pick up and inventory go down.
I don't know much about Vermont, but when I think of Vermont, you think of Killington, Okemo, right? Those are the two big mountains up there, down there.
Yeah, Killington's the largest. Stratton, Okemo, they're significant. Northern Vermont has Stowe, JP, and Smuggler's Notch. And an interesting thing that's gone on in the last 3 years is that Aspen Ski Company has bought Stratton, and Vail Company has bought Okemo and Stowe. And so we've got this large consolidation. And what's very interesting about it is they haven't targeted any other state in New England, but they've bought those Vermont resorts. So to me, that means they see something. They see the same thing, that Vermont is a real jewel, and that they bought resorts where they think people would enjoy not only skiing at their Vermont resorts, but then going out to Colorado and Utah and enjoying those resorts. So I think it's a real win for Vermont that Vail and Aspen picked Vermont over New Hampshire, Maine, or New York for ski resorts to purchase, and that lends a lot to the quality of the experience in Vermont.
That's very interesting. Great information. I also when I hear about Vermont, I hear a lot of people golfing, right? A lot of is Quechee? Where is Quechee?
Quechee's in the middle of the state on the eastern side. It's basically at the intersection of just west of the intersection of Interstates 89 and 91. It's a large property of about 3,000 homes. They've got a 27-hole golf course, a wonderful clubhouse with a aquatic center for kids, and they have a spa. They've also got a little ski slope. They've got a great racket club with tennis and paddle, racquetball indoors in the winter, and just a nice little community right next to Woodstock. So anyone that belongs to the Gucci Club or buys into that resort generally goes and shops and eats in Woodstock or Hanover. So it's kind of plugged right between Hanover, New Hampshire, which is where Dartmouth College is, and Woodstock, Vermont, which is a historic town where the Rockefeller family and has a presence and continues to support the actually everything that kind of goes on in that town, including owning the Woodstock Inn.
Oh wow! So was that the Woodstock, the famous Woodstock from way back when they did all those
ski train and everything?
Yeah, that was Woodstock. Oh wow!
Yeah. And golf is a great outdoor activity and very enjoyable. Vermont's got, I don't know what number of courses, but we have a lot of private clubs in and around the Manchester area, the Dorset Field Club, the Quantic Country Club, the Manchester Country Club, and those are just, Quantic and Dorset are steeped in history, with Dorset being the oldest continually operating golf course in the country, and particularly with its first nine holes that it built. And then Aquanic is just a wonderful golf course. And although they're private, a lot of people that buy second homes here in the area tend to join the one or both of those clubs if they're big golfers.
So if when people come into Vermont for their second home, are they looking for year round? Are they looking just for the winter? Or, is it a year round second home?
Well, we'd all like to say it's a year round, but I think there's a couple months in the year that you don't really want to. Vermont's in April and November. There's not much going on because of the weather's transitioning, but yeah, a lot of people are buying them for the winter sports and then the summer activities. We've got, and I speak to the area where I'm from mostly because I know it so well, but right now we've got the North Side. There's a horse show going on right now in Dorset that goes for 6 or 8 weeks. Wonderful exhibits of hunter jumper show horses, competition. In the summer, we've got golf tournaments. We have art exhibits. We have music. We've got a great bluegrass, folk and bluegrass festival coming up in late August in Manchester. We've got the Independent Television Festival, which is really popped in Manchester. Stratton has Wanderlust, as well as Solarfest. So in the summer, there's a great deal of things going on, and in the winter, tons of sports: snowmobiling, skiing, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, ice skating. But what's really neat about winter is, the quaint little country inns that have the taverns with the wood stove or fireplace going, and you can sit in a room and eat, and there's 20 other people, and you probably know half of them if you're a member of the community. And it's a real nice. Vermont's got that real. A lot of people joke about the Newhart show and Bob Newhart in that inn, and it still feels like that, where you can walk in the inn and everybody knows everybody, and that exists in many towns up in Vermont.
Well, it sounds very good. I mean, today with like you were saying, all the technology and people just want to get away and they can work from home. I mean, it sounds like, when you think of New England, we all think of every state but Vermont, and it's because of, it's not that hustle and bustle of the other New England states is kind of what I feel like anyway.
There was a rating last week. The past couple of weeks are interesting. I don't know which agency or what outfit it was, but Vermont was rated the top state in the country to move to, and Manchester alone was rated one of the top towns in the country to move to as well. But I think, I'm talking a lot about Southern Vermont. There's also, for technology industry in Burlington, the colleges and the fact that Burlington's a really attractive place for young and middle-aged folks to move to and raise their families, because it's just got everything. It's got beautiful downtown. The lake has a lot of activities. You're within 20-30 minutes of 3 or 4 ski areas. It has so much to offer, and it's so clean that I think it's starting to get the attention. Living here in Vermont for 30 years, we often take it for granted what we've got, and now we're starting to see a lot of national exposure around the lifestyle. I mean, we feel as real estate professionals that the millennials are really focused on amenities and lifestyle services and things to do, rather than owning a big house as their crown jewel. I think Generation X folks are the same. The baby boomers all bought these big houses, and that was their big thing. And there's a big transition. We're seeing some millennials wanting experience over assets.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, the few times I've been to Vermont, the last time I'm going to throw out another address for you was it's Lake Maury. Is that southern Vermont as well?
No, that's up north of Quechee, actually, about 30 miles, probably 30 minutes north of Quechee on the eastern side of the state. It's in an area it's just in the southern area of what we call the Northeast Kingdom. It's where it becomes very rural, but beautiful, and landscape is just mountainous and hilly and lots to do. Lake Maury is famous for its summer camps. In fact, that whole area up there has a lot of summer camps for kids. And, just as an example, some of our family members were up there in camps last week, and they were from all over the country, including some folks from England that are going to summer camps in Vermont. I mean, some of the best camps in the world are in Vermont. And so Lake Maury is one of those areas that has camps on it, and then there's other lakes up in that area, and it's really beautiful right now.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I remember being at Lake Maury. There were people from all over the world. It was interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
So Paul, if you're a family and you're saying, you know what, we're looking for the second home market. We don't want to do New Hampshire. It's kind of, the Attitash mountain or something around there. We want to do something more remote, more kind of not plugged in. What would you recommend if you want to be able to do stuff during the day? Obviously, you'd love to have something where you have winter and summer mixture. You want to go shopping. People like good restaurants. What would be your kind of say? Why don't you start here? Looking in which area would you promote?
Yeah, I would promote hands down the Manchester, Vermont area.
Manchester, Vermont.
It has It has restaurants. It has shopping. We've got over 100 retail stores. We've got over 30 restaurants right in that town. And then when you expand to the Dorset, Weston area, Peru, Landgrove, which is all right in that little area, it's a good area of all those activities. The Appalachian Trail crosses through right next to Manchester. You've got, I don't know, half a dozen golf courses, 4 or 5 ski mountains. It's a 3-hour drive from Manhattan. It's a 3-hour drive from Boston. It's off the beaten path. There's no interstate that goes through. There's not a lot of commercialized industry. It's, give you some example of companies that are based in Manchester. You've got Orvis. You've got the Vermont Country Store. You've got Burton Snowboards was founded in Manchester. And those are real lifestyle companies that have been very successful, privately owned, still Vermont companies. The families that own those companies live in Manchester. And so there's this, what's so nice about Manchester is it's very simple. It's not crowded, but it's got sophistication that if you're coming from an area where, you have a busy day and you're an educated person and you have a outstanding job and you're wanting to raise a family and you're successful in all those regards, Manchester is your place to be where you can continue on that, that success, but take a breath and take a break, but you're still amongst people that appreciate, where you come from and what you've done. And it has that, it's got that history because even dating back to the early 1800s, people came to Manchester from the cities to get away from the heat and disease, and they built summer homes and they built the golf courses. Robert Todd Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's son, built a home in Manchester. The Pabst family, Pabst Brewery, built a home in Manchester. And you just go down the list, and 200 years of history of people wanting to be here for lifestyle is still the case. So I think that's your spot. There are other spots, but they're further away. They're an extra hour or two from probably where most people are, the concentration of where people are from in Northeast. So my bullet would be right in bullseye would be in Manchester, Vermont.
Very interesting. So, the last question now, you get involved in because a lot of people will only spend, 3 to 4 weeks out of the year at their second home. How do they get involved with these rentals? And do you see a lot with Airbnb? I know it seems to be like the biggest thing that's been going on where people are posting their homes and renting them out per the week as opposed to, per night as opposed to the month or the week or however that. Yeah. What are you seeing in that area?
Well, there's a whole mix. The hospitality business in the area, you could speak to almost all of Vermont, is that it's made up of significant named, branded hotels. Then you've got the privately owned hotels, motels, then you've got the bed and breakfast inns, and then you've got everybody that's putting their home or condo into Airbnb, HomeAway, etc. That makes up the lodging inventory for Vermont. And over the last 10 years, there's been a big shift to owners renting on their own. But before that, they were using local agencies, mine being one of them as well, to manage the rentals. So it isn't like the inventory's changed. It's just changed how it's been managed and how it's been marketed. And then as new products, new homes come on the market, people put them in the rental pool, and it we have more exposure online. So we see it as all very, very good. There was a while where the hotels were scared of the onset of Airbnb and the rent to own by owner stuff. But the reality is that if you're a hotel person, and this is my belief, if you like hotels, you're staying in hotels. You're not going to probably venture out and go stay in somebody's private home. But if you're into the adventure of staying in someone's private home, that's probably, you're going to go try a bunch of different ones. And it's very unlikely that you go stay in a hotel. So the consumer of those products is sort of defined. And the hotels, I think, are figuring out they're not necessarily losing people to those other homes, and that's what makes up the Vermont landscape of hospitality. And we're seeing that we need more and more and more rooms and more restaurants because we're seeing more visitors coming here to enjoy the lifestyle. And so it's great. I mean, we measure the success on what we call the rooms and meals tax revenue, because Vermont was one of the first states to require that Airbnb and HomeAway collect tax for rooms and meals on behalf of the homeowners that they're renting their homes. And that's a great thing because Vermont was missing out on all these homeowners renting their homes and not paying the rooms and meals tax. We're one of the first states to capture that, and now we can measure how much increased revenue occurs. And I can tell you in Manchester alone, year over year, the rooms and meals tax revenue has increased 10% each year in the last few years. And that's a big deal for us.
Wow.
That means there's more people coming and they're spending more money on rooms and buying more meals and more alcohol. The other one that we measure everything on is sales and use tax. And they do it by town, so we know the revenues of we can correlate revenue increases or decreases based on the amount of taxes generated. And again, Vermont has, particularly in the Manchester market, we've seen an increase in sales and use tax, which comes from retail, and the rooms and meals tax, which comes from hospitality. And we've just seen increases all around. So it's a big piece of our economy in Vermont. I think tourism is probably right up there in the top 3 of all revenue sources for the state.
Well, what's interesting is, I own a mortgage company, and a lot of times people ask me, hey, I'd love to buy a second home. I'm only going to be there this many weeks out of the year, and I believe I can make money on it. I mean, as you get involved in the management of it and rent it out, do you have a slew of people that want a vacation in those areas where someone could come in with fresh money, get their second home, and just say, hey, look, I want to rent it out, 40 weeks out of the year? Is that something that you get involved in and something that you can become successful at?
Well, we don't. Yeah, we used to do short-term rentals, which would be anything under 30 days. We actually got out of that business, but we remain in the business of seasonal rentals and long-term rentals. So seasonal rentals are, the skier family wants to come up and rent a home or a condominium for the winter months, or the summer family that wants to come up and enjoy the summer and golf, etc. And so they rent for the summer months. But so we do the seasonal and long-term. The reason we don't do the short-term is because there are the Airbnb world, and there are national firms that just do a better job at marketing and dynamic rent revenue management. They just do a better job. They have better tools than we do. So that's why we got out of it. But it theoretically is a good source of revenue to supplement, your fixed costs like taxes and insurance and utilities. But, we don't in the real estate business say you can make money or, probably the best you can do is break even, but then you're also, you're putting your second home into a rental pool, and then most renters want to use it on the same weekends you would.
Right.
Holiday weeks, holiday weekends. So you have to mentally be there that you're going to give up your home for time periods that maybe you wanted to use it too. There's no one theoretically renting a home midweek in Vermont unless it's for the season.
Right.
And there's unique reasons, like I mentioned that horse show in Dorset, Vermont. Yeah, there's an 8-week period where a family may rent a home in Dorset and Manchester just for the horse show. And that happens. That happens for sure. There's probably 200 or 300 families that are doing that right now. But for the most part, I think it's a good way to supplement your costs. But it's not going to make you, I don't think it's going to make you money unless you don't use it at all. I mean, that becomes an investment property. Right. And so I don't know. I mean, it's, we talk a lot to families that say, hey, can I buy a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo in Stratton, Vermont for $250,000? mortgage it, pay the dues, insurance, et cetera, and rent it, will I break even? And the real answer is probably not.
Right.
Probably not. But if you put it in for 365 days a year, you're probably going to rent it for 120. Yeah, maybe you break even, but you'll never step foot in your own place. So it strictly becomes an investment property.
Oh, very interesting, Paul. If anyone wants to reach out to Paul, anybody's thinking about investing in Vermont or living in Vermont, Paul, why don't you shout out your number, where to reach you, and your contact info?
Sure. Yeah, my direct number is 802-779-7277, and my email is my initials, pwc@tpw.com.
And Paul, thank you for being on our show. And like we always like to say, on Easy Money New England, there's no such thing as easy money. See you next week.
It's a new day, it's a new way. Call 877-NEW-FED-1. It's a new way.
Hi folks, it's Brian Damico, owner of NewFed Mortgage. People always ask me, what's the difference between pre-approved and pre-qualified? Well, pre-approval is a more rigorous process than a pre-qualification. It's a written commitment from a lender to extend a mortgage to you for a specific amount and time period. With a pre-approval, you'll be able to set your budget, negotiate confidently, and close faster. Typically, sellers will only accept offers from those who are pre-approved. That's why you need to call NewFed and ask about our pre-approval purchase program so that you get a real pre-approval and get on the fast track to purchasing the home of your dreams. Don't waste time dealing with big banks. Get pre-approved at NewFed today. We're local and we're here to help.
877-NEW-FED-1.
Subject to credit approval, equal housing lender, NMLS number 1881. Call or see website for details.
877-NEW-FED-1. It's a new day, it's a new way. Call 877-NEW-FED-1. It's a new way.
Hi folks, it's Brian Damico, owner of NewFed Mortgage. I've met so many people who want to make money in real estate but just don't know how. They pay for expensive real estate courses and seminars and they just left more confused. This is why I wrote the book, Real Estate Riches. Take the first step and buy your first home. Whether you want to buy your first home or an investment property, I share some of the best secrets to real estate success in my new book. Just visit briandamico.com/free book to receive your coupon from Amazon. When you finish reading, give me a call so we can set up your financial future together. That's briandamico.com, briandamico.com/free book. Sign up and receive your free book from Amazon. Subject to credit approval, equal housing lender, NMLS number 1881. Call or see website for details.
877-NEW-FED-1.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.